Today we're going to be learning how to write your name with value and perspective. Actually, 1-point perspective. We're going to create one vanishing point and use a ruler to make all of our lines vanish to that 1 point. That's how we can make the letters look three-dimensional. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color, and we will change the value to make the sides look like they have shadows. Spend a minute looking over the goals and scales. Start at level 3. That's what you're expected to be able to do. I can create a drawing that uses value and perspective. Let's start with level 2. I can define 1-point perspective, shape, form, 2D, and 3D. And I can use a vanishing point to correctly attach vanishing lines to any shape. You first need to know and understand the 7 elements of art: line, shape, form, space, value, color, and texture. We will be using most of these in our picture. When you write your name, the letters will become form instead of shape. So let's look at the difference now. Shapes are flat and 2-dimensional, and forms are 3-dimensional. Let's talk about what that means. 2-dimensional shapes have 2 things you can measure: the length and the width. 3-dimensional forms have 3 ways you can measure: the length, the width, and the depth. What is 1-point perspective? Well, here are some examples. Notice there's one vanishing point in the center of each scene, and the lines are connected to the vanishing point to create the illusion of distance. You can practice 1-point perspective using a vanishing point and vanishing lines by drawing some shapes on a paper and connecting them with a ruler from the corners of your shapes to the vanishing point. Why don't you try it now? You can pause the video in just a moment and try this. I'm going to draw a square. You don't really need a ruler for this step. And then choose a place for your vanishing point, either above or below the square. And then you'll need a straight edge. It can be a ruler or the edge of an envelope, something that you can trace. Connect the vanishing point to the corner of your square. And do that as many times as you can without drawing inside the square. So you'll notice there's one more corner. I'm not doing that one because I would have to draw inside my square. And it would be okay if I was making a glass shape, but if it's solid, you're not going to be able to see through it. I'm going to practice again with a triangle this time, connecting the corners of my triangle to the vanishing point. Use the same vanishing point for all of your shapes. Don't create a new vanishing point each time, or the entire optical illusion of distance will be ruined. There. If you would like to try a curved shape, like a circle, make sure you go to the farthest outermost point on that circle and connect that to the vanishing point. And do the same thing to the other side. The farthest outermost point of my circle will connect to the vanishing point. Okay, pause the video now and try it on your paper. Now you're ready to try your name. Each letter of your name needs to be a shape to start with, and then we're going to turn them into forms using the vanishing point. So I'd like to decide first how I'm going to hold my paper, horizontally or vertically. And because most names are longer than 4 letters, I think it's a great idea to hold the paper the horizontal long direction. Very lightly with your pencil, sketch out your name to make sure it's going to fit on the page without the letters becoming too crowded or without running out of room and not having a space for the last letter. I would like you to do all of your letters in capital and try to make all of them straight lines. Notice my O is made of straight lines instead of curvy lines. It's just so much easier to turn them into forms later. Watch how I'm drawing around each one of my lines. The original name becomes like a skeleton inside of my finished shape. So I'm drawing around the right and the left and the top and the bottom. I'm not touching my original pencil line. The resulting shape will be a letter that is a flat two-dimensional shape. I'm going to take my eraser in a moment and erase the original line letters. I drew my name at the top of the paper because I want to show you what it looks like to have the vanishing point below, and I'll be seeing the bottoms of my letters. Most of the examples I showed earlier put the vanishing point above the name, and that way you can see the tops of each letter. After watching the video, decide which way you like best, and then you'll put your name either at the top or the bottom of your paper. I'm drawing a vanishing point very, very low on my page. It could even be at the edge of the paper at the bottom, and I'm only going to connect, to start with, the bottoms of each letter. So there's 2 lines going to the J, and I'll have 2 lines going to the O. Every time it must connect to the vanishing point in the very, very corner of my letter. Hold down your ruler or your straight edge and make sure your lines are nice and straight and always touching the vanishing point. These are called guiding lines or vanishing lines. You'll see in a moment that I plan on erasing a good portion of these vanishing lines, so you might want to draw them lightly. You can always trace over them in black marker later, but when you're erasing, it's sometimes hard to erase if you press too hard with your pencil. Notice the N is the only one of my letters that will have 4 vanishing lines connecting to the bottom. Remember when we practiced earlier with the square and the triangle and the circle? I said not to have any vanishing lines going through your shape. So there's many corners to this J, but I'm only going to connect a vanishing line if it doesn't have to go through the letter. So right now I'm connecting to my vanishing point, but look how short the line is. I stop because I run into the letter and I don't want to draw through the letter. This time I'm going to also stop because I hit another letter right there. Stop and don't continue. So some of your vanishing lines will be short even though you're holding the ruler all the way down to the vanishing point. So the angle will be correct. Inside the O, I'll need a vanishing line, but it will be short. And right here I might be able to squeeze one in from this corner. It really depends. Let's see. I'll put the ruler at the vanishing point and at the corner, and yep, I can squeeze one in until I hit another line. The shapes that are directly above the vanishing point are tricky. Let's fix this L. This L was a little bit crooked and I really wanted it straight, so I'm going to use a ruler now and fix it up so it's nice and straight, and that will help it become easier to do my vanishing lines. I can see from this that I'm not able to draw a vanishing line from that corner, but maybe here, maybe just a skinny little one, and stop when I hit the L. Now you'll notice the vanishing lines are creating the left side of the shape. In the beginning, they were creating the right-hand side of each shape. That helps create the illusion. Continue connecting every corner of your letter to the vanishing point unless it means that you're going to draw inside the letter. We don't want to do it inside the letter, only outside the letter. Okay, I've connected all of them. They're all going to the very same vanishing point. This is called one-point perspective. There's other types of perspective using 2 and 3 points, but because we're only using 1-point perspective, I need you only to have one vanishing point. Now I'm putting the ruler down parallel to the bottom of my letters, and I'm going to draw a line that matches the front of my letter, but it's going to be the same distance away. So all of my letters are going to look like they're going back in space and then ending. So I'm drawing a horizontal line that matches the front of each letter. And then I can take my eraser and erase everything that's below that horizontal line. This is why I recommended that you did not press too hard with your pencil, because it becomes a challenge to erase the very, very dark lines. Okay, we're not done here. We need to now draw vertical lines to match the beginning or the front of the letter. So my J is vertical here between those two vanishing lines. So I'm going to make it vertical in the back. And then here it's horizontal. So I'm going to connect these two horizontally. And then I can erase the extra long vanishing line that's still there. Okay, all of my O is completely done except for that very bottom back corner. So it's vertical. So I'm going to go vertically and connect the back two lines. I erased a little bit too much there with my big thick eraser, so I'm going to just put it back in right now. Okay, I think my L needs nothing. My E is going to need a small, thin vertical line at the back of the E, connecting those two vanishing lines so it matches the front. You want the backs of your letters to be parallel to the fronts of your letters. Another vertical line. And this is one reason that I asked you to do straight line letters instead of curvy line letters. All we need to do is deal with horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines. We don't need to try to match the curve, which is more challenging. Right here, we're going to do a diagonal. It's the only diagonal line I'm going to need to draw. Bring the ruler back diagonally and repeat. This is a perfect stopping place for part 1. Let's take a look at our learning goal. Level 3 says I can create a drawing that uses value and perspective. So far, all we've used is perspective. We're going to use value when we color it in. That's the dark and light values of a color. You can define 1-point perspective as using one vanishing point to create the illusion of distance. Shapes and forms. The letters were shapes, we turn them into forms. Shapes are 2D and forms are 3D. Remember, 2D means two-dimensional, having length and width. 3D means three-dimensional, having length, width, and depth. And you can use a vanishing point to correctly attach vanishing lines to any shape. We practiced this in the beginning, and then we did it with our letters. Come back next week and we will continue on coloring our picture using value. Welcome to part 2. I think most of the hard work has been done. You've already drawn your name in 1-point perspective and made the shapes turn into 3-dimensional forms. And now we're going to emphasize the 3-dimensional quality of each letter by shading it in with 3 different values, meaning the color stays the same, say red, but we have light red, medium red, and dark red. Notice all the different values you can create just using pencil. If you don't have any crayons or markers, you can shade this entire thing with pencil and still control the values. Here's a great example where the shading of blue goes from dark to light just by letting up on the pressure of the colored pencil. So your goal today is to control the value of the color when you shade each letter. Value means the darks and lights of a color. That last piece of art got me thinking about my background. I think I'll put my name in an underwater scene. So I'm going to create some water flowing, and then I'll create some fish swimming around. Now would be a great time for you to sketch in a background, so maybe that will help you know what colors to use on your name. If you outline everything in marker, it will make all of your edges much sharper and crisper and look more three-dimensional. So I'm going to outline my name in black, but then I'm going to use rainbow colors to outline the rest of my letters. Then I'm going to color in the J with red only. The bottoms of every letter I'm going to do in the lightest value. So I'm making sure it's not scribbly, but I'm coloring in rather light, so that the sides of the letter that I'm doing now can be a darker value. So I'm just pressing harder with my crayon to make the sides a darker value. And then I'll stay with red, but I'll color in the front of the letter with a red marker. That should look even darker than the red crayon because it's blocking out more of the white paper. I'll repeat this with each one of my letters. The O will be orange, and I'll start with the bottom of the letter and make it as light orange as I can, keeping it smooth and neat and not scribbly. The bottom of the inside of the O is that same value. Now create a darker value for the sides, and then an even darker value for the front. So 3 different values, light, medium, dark. If your marker does not appear darker than your crayon, you might have to go over it with another layer of marker or a different type of orange. There, this orange here is a little bit darker. A new one, I'm going to make it even darker by putting another layer of marker on top. With the yellow L, I'll start with my crayon and create the lighter value first for the bottom of the letter, and then use marker for the front of the letter. Each letter needs to be only one color. It's the value that you should change, not the color. I'll use a green crayon to create a light value of green for the bottoms of my E, and a darker value for the side of my E. Back to light, and a marker for the very, very dark front of my letter. Perfect. I like the contrast between the darks and the lights. Now with my blue, I'll take a blue crayon and do the bottom of the letter. That blue came out rather purple blue. I'm going to press harder on the sides, and then I'll find a blue marker for the front of my E. That blue looks quite different than my side blue. I found a purple crayon, and I'll color very lightly for the bottoms of my N and a darker value for the sides of my N. Try to keep your lines nice and crisp and sharp, and you're welcome to outline everything in black if you don't like how it looks outlined in colored marker. Now I found a purple marker to do the front of my N. Unfortunately, my purple front looks really close to my purple sides. I wish there was more of a contrast, more of a difference. I find the N is a little bit hard to read because I have a lot of dark purple on the sides. Let's see if I can darken that up at all. Now that we've completed level 3, let's take a look at level 4. I can use innovative ideas and creative solutions to solve artistic problems with one-point perspective. So let's do something interesting and innovative and creative to our background. We'll have the name be part of the background. I'm going to have mine be swimming among the fish, and so I'm going to draw with markers different colored fish that match some of the colors I used in my name. I just make an oval with a tail, and sometimes I'll add some fins in addition. You can do whatever background you like. If you want it to be in a desert scene, or part of a city, or part of a landscape, you decide that, and that way everybody's will be different and creative and innovative. You don't need to copy exactly what I'm doing. You can color your background in with whatever you happen to have. Crayons and markers are fine, but if you have some chalk or watercolor paints, that would be really exciting too, to see that in your background. There you have it, your name in one-point perspective, using value to create shading, and creating an interesting background to go with it. I cannot wait to see yours, and remember you can use whatever materials you happen to have at home.